fingered, fingered, fingered.
And 100%
fingered. Fingered.
Richard Finger is the latest enigma to take the EDM scene by storm, but a meteoric rise to a staggering 7,300 Soundcloud followers doesn't come without controversy. While the mystery project is well loved by many, it has also been the target of criticism, with claims that the strange figure is an industry plant who is ruining EDM and embodies everything that is wrong with bass music. Their debut set will take place at Red Rocks opening for Tape B this October, which has led many to believe that Richard Finger's meteoric rise is completely manufactured. But regardless of how you feel about Sir Richard, one thing is undeniable. Mr. Finger is the hottest finger in the game. With a finger so hot, they've got everyone wondering, whose finger is this anyways? Roughly 1 year ago, a new SoundCloud account called Richard Finger was quietly launched alongside their debut track, The Birth of Richard Finger.
Fingered.
About half a year later, the Richard Finger socials launched on Instagram and Twitter, with their first post premiering their new remix of Distinct Motive's Mellow Man. The remix didn't get much attention online right away, but exactly one day after posting it, LSZ played it out at Red Rocks, and the mystery of Richard Finger was born. However, they still weren't getting much traction on social media at this point, with their earliest tweets only getting a couple of likes. But as they continued to post new tracks and expand their social media presence, people started to take notice, and the buzz around the obscure internet figure started to grow. At the time that I'm making this video, they're currently sitting on a deep discography of 8 tracks on SoundCloud, with their most popular track sitting at 125,000 streams. Even though the project has taken on rather unserious branding, their music slaps and is produced at a pretty high level. So whoever it is that's behind Richard Finger is clearly an experienced producer. But who could it possibly be? Let's see if we can find out. EDM.com was the first and currently only media outlet to publish a Richard Finger interview, and it reveals a key piece of information about the people behind the alias. Richard Finger is a duo, with each member having over a decade of producing experience. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that the two members are also a duo for their main projects. It could definitely be two solo artists who have banded together for this passion project. Levity has been a main focal point of speculation when it comes to Richard Finger's true identity, as they engage with Richard's socials regularly and have talked about it in interviews as well.
Who is Richard Finger?
The joking answer is that I am Richard Finger, you are Richard Finger, we are all Richard Finger. But the real answer is that we actually don't know.
No idea.
And whoever it is,
deep,
though,
so profound.
makes fire music.
But personally, I find it kind of hard to believe that two of the members would launch a side project without the third. But I could be totally wrong. However, about 4 months ago, someone made a post in the Space-Based Reddit asking, who is Richard Finger? Levity replied with a pic showing Richard Finger's mascot as a wavetable in Serum next to a finger wavetable, and the MIDI clip is saying, I am Richard Finger. It was upvoted to be the top comment on the post, but I don't think that confirms Levity to be Richard Finger by any means. It just seems like they're messing around and having fun. I feel like they might know who it is, but aren't directly involved. Ravenscoon is another artist who has been circulating in the conversation, and he even posted a video on his Instagram story revealing himself to be Richard Finger. On a different post about this in the Space-Based Reddit, Ravenscoon commented saying it was a joke and that Richard Finger asked him to make the post. Which is probably true, but take that as you will. Some other artists who have been in the conversation or who engage with Richard Finger consistently are Alleycvt, Superfuture, Eazybaked, Vector, and Smokeland, specifically Harry from Smokeland. One of Richard Finger's very first tweets is a picture of Harry from Smokeland in the gym with Richard Finger photoshopped in. Also, apparently during the Couchland stream, Richard Finger was in the chat talking about how big Harry's arms are. But in my opinion, that seems more like friend behavior, and I can't imagine it was Harry saying those things about himself. So regarding the Levity, Ravenscoon, and Smokeland theories, I don't think any of them necessarily have any real credibility. And I'm pretty sure that Alleycvt and Superfuture are just in on the joke as well, but aren't the ones running the Richard Finger accounts. But we still need to talk about Eazybaked, and there might actually be something here. To be clear, I don't think Eazybaked is Richard Finger, but they may lead us to other pieces of the puzzle. In the Reddit post I mentioned earlier where Levity said that they were Richard Finger, farther down in the comments, a few people said that it's Milano and Snuggles, who both happen to be a part of the Lost Dogs collective, in which Eazybaked are also members. Someone else said, "My money is on it being closely tied to Lost Dogs," and 2 people seem to confirm that this is true. So I started to look into this more, and I checked to see who Richard Finger is following on Instagram, and they're only following 7 people. They're Rizzler, Top Shelf Cannabis, Style It with RJ, which is just a guy who posts like fandom outfit videos, Soundcloud, Puberty, and 2 different guys named Kyle. So I figured we could probably ignore the first 5 accounts because I don't really think there's anything there, but the guys named Kyle definitely piqued my interest. So the first one is named Kyle LeCouture. I don't know if I said that right, but anyways, he has a link in his bio to an Instagram account of a private jet company called Peak Private Jets. After finding his LinkedIn, it appears that he either works for or owns this company, but I can't see which because I don't actually have a LinkedIn and I don't care to make one either. But anyways, judging from his Instagram account, it seems like he's just a regular dude who's a fan of electronic music because he follows artists like Rez, Grizz, Zed's Dead, Richard Finger, etc. I don't know if this guy has any clues to the identity of Richard Finger, but the fact that Richard is only following 7 people, it makes you wonder if there's a specific reason that he follows them. Now, moving on to the other mysterious Kyle figure, this guy seems to be a DJ who performs wearing a hot dog costume. Eazybaked and Milano are also following this Kyle guy, so that kinda at least loosely supports the Lost Dogs theory. So that brought me to this other post in the Space Base Reddit that says, "Richard Finger is Milano and Daggz. Can't prove it, but I am right about this. They know it, it's lame, but yeah, pushing music that way will never be cool. Thanks for contributing to the problem, you two." And just FYI, Daggz is also a part of Lost Dogs, so it's possible that he could be involved. Anyways, this led me further down a rabbit hole to a Reddit user account called NotRichardFinger69. I have no clue whether or not this is actually run by the people behind Richard Finger, but the account's first 2 comments were on Milano and Daggz Reddit AMA, but they deleted both comments, so we can't see what they said. Daggz also shouted out Richard Finger in that AMA, and he also played 2 Richard Finger tracks at Eazybaked and Friends New Year's Eve. And there was also another comment asking Daggz if he's done any ghost production work, and Milano replied to that comment saying that Daggz is Richard Finger. But who knows if that actually lends any credibility to the Daggz theory. Another thing worth mentioning is that Vector defended Richard Finger on Twitter when people were criticizing their Red Rocks opening slot for Tape B. He said, "Everyone griping should take notes. Knowing personally what they did to get there, they worked hard, made a name for themselves, and despite their online vibe, they actually really care. No one will ever take anyone's spot. That's a mindset that'll get you nowhere." Vector also gave Richard Finger a shout out when he appeared on the Producer podcast.
Shout out Richard Finger, by the way.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Just shout him out. Is he on here? Why?
Richard Finger? Have you not heard about him yet?
No.
He's like this new DJ producer. No one knows who he is.
Dude, I'm super gullible. You will get...
I swear to God, I'm not lying. I'll show you right now.
All right, shout out.
Shout out Richard Finger.
Vector seems to be pretty close with some of the Lost Dogs guys, so him coming to Richard Finger's defense definitely could be a sign that Richard Finger originated from someone within Lost Dogs, but that's still completely unconfirmed. And the last thing that I want to talk about regarding Lost Dogs members is that Snuffy tweeted at Richard Finger a month after the Richard Finger Twitter account went live when it was getting very little attention. So that seems to allude to the fact that at least one Lost Dogs member was aware of Richard Finger before most people started to catch on. Now, moving on from the Lost Dogs theories, there's just a few more things we need to look at. So there's a SoundCloud account called Tape P, and just to be clear, I'm not saying Tape B, but Tape P as in peaches. They have a track called The P that uses the Richard Finger vocal sample, so I guess that might be worth something.
The S, the H, the P, the P, the T, the E.
Levity and Tape B are both following the account, and according to a Reddit post I found, someone claims to know the person behind Tape P, and they said that it's not a well-known artist, that the account was started as a Tape B parody, which I guess that kind of makes sense. So moving on to the next thing, Boogie T played 2 Richard Finger tracks during one of his sets at the Ritz in Tampa. Though I couldn't really find any connections between Richard Finger and Boogie T aside from him playing those tracks, so that might just be a one-off event. And the last and possibly most important thing we'll look at before wrapping things up is one of Richard Finger's Instagram posts from March 14th. It's a video of Richard Finger denying the allegations that he is Grizz, and it's the first time that we've ever actually heard Richard Finger talk, assuming that it actually is a Richard Finger member talking in the video. However, they pitched down the vocals to throw off any unique vocal identifiers, but I pitched them back up so you can hear their normal voice.
Hello there. I would like to address some of the recent allegations against me. In the past 48 hours, I've been accused of being somebody I'm not. The rumors are wild, and the DMs won't stop. While I'm flattered, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Let me be absolutely clear. While I'm just as excited as you for his return, I can confidently say that I am not Grizz, I have never been Grizz, and I will never be Grizz. I am Richard Finger, EDM's newest bad boy.
I don't personally recognize that voice, but if any of you do, let me know in the comments. Before I close out the video, I do want to throw in one update that occurred in the middle of making this video. Richard Finger has just released their 9th track, a remix of Levity's Front to Back, and it is a stinker.
Front to the back. Know what it is when I jump on a jump on a
Finger.
jump and a jump and a jump and a jump and a jump.
For now, the identity of the mysterious Richard Finger remains unsolved, but it will be exciting to see all the ways in which the Richard Finger project unfolds as it matures. I imagine that a whole new level of discourse is going to be unlocked after Richard Finger plays Red Rocks in October, where they're probably going to be performing in this mask.